Hey everyone, welcome to Can't Afford to Record, the YouTube channel where we figure out the art of audio production together. I'm Robby Miller, and in today's episode, I get to speak to Thomas Blug. Now, when it comes to audio, and especially guitar audio, Thomas knows so much because he has contributed so many awesome products to the guitar world. I myself use one of his guitar amps called an Amp 1. I absolutely love it. I think it's awesome for recording, especially live. It's a 100-watt amp, and this is it. I can pick it up like this. It's so cool. But Thomas is no stranger to being in a recording studio and getting experience on both sides of the glass. He was already laying down session work at the age of 17. He's also produced various different artists, including his own music. There's almost too much to summarize in this intro, so I'm just going to let you guys enjoy the conversation between me and Thomas. I really think you're going to dig it. If you are not into the Zoom audio conference call quality that you hear in this video conversation, no problem. You can hear this episode as a podcast edition if you head to Can't Afford to Record on Spotify or wherever else you listen to your podcasts usually. It was so great to speak to Thomas. I think you guys are going to really love it. Enjoy the episode. Musician, guitarist, songwriter, innovator, sound designer, and all-round audio guru, Mr. Thomas Blug. Thanks for coming on Can't Afford to Record. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you. It's a real pleasure to have, to be on your show. And actually, what some people don't know, I used to be a producer as well. I had a business card saying being a record producer this was a period in my life around 2000 for about 4 years.
Okay.
And I had done a few different kind of productions. Aloha Records was one. I was producing a sister kind of couple from Hawaii.
Wow.
And they had one Hawaiian Grammy. This was Lo'eka and Pomai Longakit, which is a very Hawaiian name.
Yes.
And their parents were already musicians. So they flew me into Hawaii to record in a studio in Hawaii. And back in the days, I didn't have a laptop. I brought my Mac, whatever, 7300, the gray box and an interface, and recorded in Hawaii. This was one of the jobs.
Wow. Thomas, we're already into the stories already, and I absolutely love that. Well, I'm gonna be a fan for a second, okay, and then I'll try and rein it back in, because I absolutely love everything you do. I am a proud owner of an Amp 1.
Oh, sure.
Mine's the original model. Mine's a silver. For those who are listening on the audio version of this, I'm holding up my Amp 1 now. And I might just go as far to say it's one of the best purchases I think I've ever bought. One of.
Wow. Thank you.
Well, thank you for making such an amazing product. I'll tell you quickly my history about it, and then I'll tell you why I love it so much. Because we've never actually met in person, but we have a mutual connection because I play guitar for Ryan Roxy when he's not playing with Alice Cooper. So I did a couple of tours with Ryan in the States, where I used to live in the States. And I remember him come to the first rehearsal for this tour that we were doing called Planet Axe. And he said, "I've got an Amp 1. And we were all like, "What's an Amp 1? So he plugs it in. We A/B it with a Marshall JCM 900. We're like, this thing sounds amazing. It sounds incredible. And it was just so inspiring to watch him use that amp every night. I was playing bass on this tour. And I'm a guitarist mainly. I'm watching him use this amp, and I'm thinking, why do I try and carry Fender Twins around anywhere? Why am I trying to do this? So anyways, after that, I did a small UK run with Ryan. He brings the Amp 1 again. Great. I watched him use it again every night. It's amazing sounding. And then we did another Planet Axe tour in the States again. and I watched him use it all through the tour again. And I thought, okay, I have to get one of these. It's so incredible. And let me tell you, because this is going to be quite a guitar-based episode, I feel. If you, there is no better feeling, folks, than going to a gig and taking out 100-watt amplifier that fits in your backpack and watch all the other support bands and guitarists wheel in their Fender Twins and bring up their Marshall cabs. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's the most incredible feeling. So I just want to say thank you for everything you've done with this product, because I think for me as a guitarist, it's changed a lot of things that I do now. I record
Hmm.
with this amp every
Hmm.
single day. And
Hmm.
all the guitars off my EP that I just released, they're all amp one. I didn't use any other amp. So I'm a
Hmm.
huge fan. And I'm using the silver version, the silver edition of this. You've had 2 more editions of this.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to rein it back in a little bit now and talk about some recording and sort of your experiences, but we are going to come back to the amp one because I have more questions about it, or
Sure.
get a bit more insight about it. But that is my introduction to what you do, and yeah, your wonderful products here. But my first question to you, Thomas Blug,
Yeah.
is: do you remember a time when you couldn't afford to record?
You know, when I was a teenager and when I started my hobby being a guitar player, I didn't have the tools to record. Okay. Um, I was kind of lucky because my father was used to work at the university. So he had kind of an old dictaphone,
Right.
and he had already a tape machine, like a German brand called UHA. Maybe you know, maybe not. You know, there was Revox,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, and the German brand called UHA, and they made very portable real tape recorders, and they were used to do interviews with journalists and stuff like this, and they were portable. And actually, I stole some of the ideas from the M1 side control. The UHA tape machine had some twiddly bits here like that, and so as even as a kid, I saw technology in that kind of form. So I was kind of spoiled to have some opportunities. But my first real um, recording device I had was I think it was Japanese. It was like a cassette player with
Yeah.
a built-in rhythm machine, like a drum machine, with the typical electronic sounds of the 80s. And but the thing is, I could do a double track. So I could record one track with the drum machine as my rhythm track, and I could have another track added on, like I was practicing solo guitar, or write songs. So this was my starting point. I know recording today is way easier than back in the day. And okay, I'm honest, I had some abilities even from the start.
Right. And when did you, I mean, can you maybe even remember the first time when you were fooling around with that, maybe that simple drum machine and recording device when you were like, I can do this and I can
Yeah,
do it better? Was there ever those moments?
absolutely. It is the moment you can play back what you played, what you and listen to yourself. That's a magic moment. It's like changing the perspective. Before that, I was a listener to other players, Deep Purple and whatever music I liked. But the moment you can listen to yourself is life. It's life changing. It's like, wow, do I hate myself? Do I like? It's like listen to your own voice. And I'm kind of sensitive. I can feel like, oh, this is total shit, and that's not too bad. And then you can decide where to carry on, which are your weak points and the strong points, and then evolve naturally by just doing that process, recording, listening back.
Do you remember Do you remember a song that you recorded on that device? Did you make an album? Did you make a collection of songs? Can you remember them?
Yeah, you know, on my first tapes, cassettes, um, I had a bunch of like 10 songs that I kind of wrote, but um, not that. And then I started to make my own band at school, and then we actually bought a Porter studio. You know, the Tascam,
Hmm.
what was it, 144 or 244? You know, we had the first one without the parametric EQ, and then we got the second one with the parametric uh, frequencies.
And
And
all a while you're sort of trying these different devices and learning these different recording devices, are you thinking to yourself like, okay, but I want to do this, like I want to make a product like this? Like when did that happen? When were you like, I want to contribute to the audio world, either with amp design, pedal design, recording interface design? When was that? When did that come apparent to you? When you're like, I can do better than what I'm using right now.
yeah, it was a natural progression because my first hobby was electronics. So before I picked up the guitar and before I was a musician, I already built myself my own home stereo. You know, I had a um, you know, transistor amp, and yeah, I had homemade cabinets. Of course, I copied. I was copying like the Bose speaker with the nine broadband kind of things, having an extra EQ to, you know, all that weird shit.
Hmm.
And um, so I was already into, well, kind of making products for myself. This was just my hobby, you know. And I was soldering. I was making PCBs. I was
How old were
doing
you?
little, about 9, 10.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, to be honest, the level was not that high. But of course, but I could do something, you know. And the background is also again to my father, because my father was at the university, and after school, I went. He picked me up to a university so I could do my homework in his office or next to the office. And then when I finished my schoolwork, what to do? You know, he was kind of talking to other professors, and you know, being a boy of 10, this is bullshit to you. So I was wandering around the building, and the only guy that I really found exciting was the technician. They had a technician. He was repairing cameras and audio, and he taught me, you know, how to make a power supply, how to make an amplifier, and you know, get the light on and off, and you know, the easy stuff for the start.
Yeah.
And I still remember the smell of the old electronics. You know, when they had some nice studios at the university for to record people in interviews, and they did something like micro teaching for when they taught teachers how to teach, what kind of words and gestures they were using, so they could monitor it. At that age, I didn't care. You know, they were just talking, and I was interested in the electronic side of it, and you know, this magic knobs here and there, and screens,
Hmm.
and yeah. So this is my fascination.
That's so cool. And so you were building a home studio at the ages of 9 or 10 and looking to improve and just tinkering around and probably having very sort of magical moments of realization of, oh, if I attach this to this, I'll get this audio sound.
Yeah.
If I do this. So were you recording friends' bands? Were you recording other musician friends for fun as well?
Well, at first I was heavily into recording my own school band, and my friend, who was a drummer, had a nice. We had a nice rehearsal room, very nice, I have to say. This was an old building, and the father had something like a wine cellar where there was a lot of wine, and there was a nice reverb. So we put a speaker, because back in those days we didn't have the money to buy a real proper digital reverb. You know, it wasn't affordable. Don't even think about it. So we put in a speaker and mic'd up the reflections of that wine cellar room, and we used that on the snare. Yeah, we got reverb, real reverb, and
Wow.
yeah, besides that, some old tape machine as an echo, um, and yeah, and then yeah, we recorded our own band a lot, and I don't actually know. Then, of course, I had some friends that I invited, and I started several projects. In the end, I had like 3 bands, and my time at school was kind of critical because I spent too much time not doing the school things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, but then I became kind of already semi-professional musician, and back in the days, I had a roadie. Today I can't. Today I have to lug around the gear myself. This is why I designed this
you,
this
you
stuff.
you got to lug around this 4 pound amplifier somehow. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
terrible. Um,
yeah,
how inspiring, and that's kind of what I'm trying to create with this channel and podcast, Thomas, is, it's called Can't Afford to Record, because you know what, I have been lucky enough to be in some bands where I've got to play in some nice studios and whatnot, but that
right.
doesn't happen very often. It
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
really doesn't. And how do I write songs? How do I demo new ideas? I do it in Logic. And I mean, the features and the functionality of being able to record now and whatnot. I think this is my latest piece of like upgraded equipment, is my
right.
SM7B. Um,
Yeah,
but it's sort of dealing with what I have, and
right.
to be honest, was way more than what you had back in the day, trying to make your own impulse response in a wine cellar and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. So I guess my question is, from that kind of level to, you know starting to produce or being a session
yeah,
guitarist in different studios, when did your ears tweak and develop? Because I think when we start making demos in our teenage years, we balance the faders and then we're like, well, okay, sounds good. We don't do anything
yeah.
else. When
No.
did it get more in depth for you?
Well, I got hired as a session player, and then I could watch the proper engineers doing the jobs. And then, of course, they had proper monitors. They had like, GBL or, high quality studio monitors. And then suddenly you can hear the music differently. And then, of course, you watch those guys and you learn a lot from them. I learned a lot from them. It's like, oh, okay, this is how the drum sounds when he's recording them. Okay, let me try it again with my Porter Studio, you know, or it's like, this is what he's doing to the vocals to get it more crispy and compressed, and maybe he reduces a few of whatever, this kind of meh, meh, meh in the voice, or adds a little bit of that, and so you learn the recipes of you know uh, 1176 compressors and the classic stuff, and a plate reverb, and a lexicon, whatever, PSM, or the big one 480, and so I was a session guy at the age of 17, and
Wow.
then constantly recording, like every, I don't know, second month. I was still at school, but for some reason people booked me, because I got connection with a producer, and I was young, I was cheap, and somehow I could do the jobs, and so he was happy, I was happy.
And I bet you were slightly different to other session guitarists at the time, where instead of just coming in, laying down the track, getting paid, leaving, you were probably over, standing over the engineer's shoulder, watching them do everything and trying, like, can I stick around? Can I learn more? Can I?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and that's, recording is an art, and it's so complex. And the point is, um, when does it stop? It never stops, you know. And so it's exciting, and maybe these guys liked me because I was interested and I was not getting on their nerves too much. I'm kind of a guy that knows when to shut the mouth and just listen,
Right.
and there's and of course sometimes when you feel, oh, the guy wants to talk, I can ask a few more questions. Hey, did you try this, and why you use that microphone on that bass drum, and what's this, and then be quiet for a moment and have the respect for their work, because it's their job.
Right.
But sometimes the guys were happy to tell me what they have been doing, and of course it's excitement, and it it made me happy, and that made them happy again. So
Absolutely. Yeah, they've got someone in there that's passionate but knows the boundaries,
yeah,
isn't just going to be wanting to turn knobs and dials nonstop, and is a great guitarist and is cool to be
yeah,
around. And that's, isn't that what it's all about? It's the hang, it's about the relationships you
yeah,
build. And then I'm sure you being that way and just, wanting to ask questions, but knowing when to not ask questions and when to play your instrument and what, they were probably like, well, let's get Thomas back in. He's a great,
yeah,
he's a great guy to have
yeah.
around, and
and
that's what it's
and
all
the
about.
one thing I yeah and one thing I was good at that age even was I could offer some good guitar sounds. They booked me because I could make kind of arrangements using, three different guitar sounds: my Strat, a Les Paul, overdrive, clean, and the in between dirty sounds. I had a flanger even at that, and a few effects, and I knew how to use them to make a production sound good.
Right.
And I think that's the job of a good session player. I mean, if you're the best Ingwie Malmsteen fast player, you're not the best session player. But if you know how to make a song shine and kind of do an arrangement that is, the job is always halfway being a producer. I mean, the producer has the hat on and he's the master of the whole thing. But there's like this, there's different guys, and if you kind of get a feel for what is needed for the song, and if you come up with the right ideas and make the song shine and make the artist shine, that's what they want, and then you get booked again, and somehow they booked me again, so maybe my taste was right.
Yeah, how inspiring. That's a great story.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
going from session work now, Thomas,
yeah,
to definitely still fiddling around with your mixing and doing more recording, tinkering around and whatnot. To
right,
you, because I was going to ask you, do you produce your own music? Is that something that you like to? And when I say produce, I'm
yeah.
talking a little bit more than the traditional sense. Like, are you recording and then do you bring the mixes home and do you do the mixes, or do you like to take a step back from your artistic side of your songs and have someone else's approach?
Well, I tried it so hard to have other people mixing my songs, and and you know my first solo record took four producers, four, and they by now some of them have even big names,
Right.
and I wasn't happy with. I was happy with some songs because it was just I had the arrangement. I was kind of the producer, but they were doing all the engineering, and they all took decisions on how to mic up the drums and etc. All that stuff. But then when it came to the mixing, some of the songs turned out to be the way I liked them, and others not. So
Mm,
I had re-recorded, even completely re-recorded a few songs that I wasn't happy with. And then out of those, I had a certain percentage I was happy with those. And then I brought in a third producer, and the fourth was me. But to be honest, I'm not the best. But the thing is, I could learn from the others, and then without the others, I could have never got to the level to get my vision done. So it needed to have all the three steps, but I couldn't afford a fourth producer, so I had to do it myself.
so you did mix, you actually mixed
Yeah,
your first debut album. You were the fourth producer on it. And tell
yeah.
me a little bit about, tell me about that. How do you feel like you've grown as a producer or a mixing engineer on that side of things compared to where you are now? And just remind me, what date was that album?
Oh well, this was somewhere in the 1990s.
Okay.
Maybe 90, maybe recorded 93, or well, I have to look it up for too long ago.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there is a magic about doing that session work, or about being in the studio, and you know I I lived that studio life at least for 20 years in a way.
Wow.
But I came to the point in my life where I decided I'm I want to step more into being a live guitar player and an amp designer. Because there's nothing wrong about what I've done in the past, but it's like, you know, um, being an artist, the question is when I'm a producer, I feel more like I'm a craftsman. I'm somebody that does, you know, some craftsmanship to the music of somebody else or my own music. But when I play the guitar in front of the audience, it's just this one rare moment, which you also get in the studio. But on stage is this is what it's all about. And so I decided I want to focus on these elements for now. You
Mm.
never know what I will do when I'm 20 years older. But you know, there was like a phase where I was that kind of studio guy that really was hot to go into the studio, waiting for the next phone call. Hey, we got this, you know, and they sent me emails. And the hardest story ever was working with a producer like on a regular basis. They knew me and they sent me tracks, and I just was recording it here at home at my setup. I got my ISO cap upstairs, and they trusted me, you know, do the arrangement. So what should it be? I said, make it sound English. What is sounding English? But I knew because I worked with them a lot, so I could get a feel for it, what they meant by, okay, make it
Right.
sound British. So, and you know, and the phone call was like uh, half, almost close to midnight, you know, and I said, okay, by when do you need the tracks? And they said like, well, the vocalists come tomorrow morning at 9. It would be great if you could do it now. And
Wow.
you know, and so I recorded that like at midnight. I finished at 3 in the morning. The next morning, 9 o'clock, they put it in. They put in my tracks in their arrangement. They recorded the vocals. They mixed it the rest of the week. And Saturday, that the whole track was #1 in Germany. I couldn't believe that.
Wow.
You know, that's the fastest thing ever. You know, and it's make it sound British. You know, and I'm okay, fair enough. Here's a few tracks. You know what to do. You know,
That's
that's
amazing. Wow.
yeah.
Remote
That's
recording. Remote recording. It can be done, and you can get #1s overnight, apparently.
yeah,
Why not?
yeah. Why not? And sometimes I spend hours and days doing little things, and nobody did care about it. I mean, maybe I like it, but you know, yeah,
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. Well, look, moving into your products a little bit, talking about the Amp One,
yeah.
I do have some questions around this. My main question is, um, the Amp One seems to be so accommodating for a lot of situations. A lot of amps and sort of new technology we're seeing now, they almost lock you in to
Hmm.
not really being able to do anything else apart from use that one piece of equipment in many ways. But with your
Right.
amp, I'm just thinking of a couple of different experiences. I record with it. I actually, when I record with it, I take a line out from the 8 ohm um, output. I
Yeah.
go
Speaker
straight.
out. Yeah.
Yep, I go into my Focusrite. I put a pad on my Focusrite, and
Yeah.
then I put a Celestion impulse response, and
And
inside
there you
Logic,
go.
and
Yeah.
it's a vintage 30. I have a 57 and a 121. I blend them together, and I'm just blown away every time. It's just so easy now. But there's
Yeah.
that approach to it. I've also been in I've been in a studio experience where they said, okay, well, we've got this Fender amp. And I was like, yeah, I want to use the Fender amp. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get the gain or the distortion that I wanted or the overdrive. I was tweaking and we were really short on time. So when I got my Amp One and I used it as an effects pedal, it worked perfectly. I've used my Amp One as a headphone amp when
Hmm.
I've been away because why not? Um, uh,
Hmm.
there seems to be more, and every time I open up my booklet for the Amp One or I watch one of your amazing videos, I
Hmm.
seem to learn something more. And I'm just wondering, are some of these happy accidents? Are some of these just things that have just worked out, or did you have this plan all along? I know that was a
Well,
really loaded and hard question. I
no, no,
don't.
no, 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 no. It's okay. You know, I try design to design products that offer more than just one trick ponies. Okay, there's nothing wrong about one trick ponies. I mean, if you have a guitar with one pickup that sounds great and you have no tone control or no whammy bar, the only thing you can do is play. Okay, fair enough. Okay, but me being, there's my custom controls, and there is this little extra socket for that can be MIDI, and it can be a foot switch, and it can hold the remote, and oh, how does this work with only one socket? That's like me being the thinker about three levels. It's like there's always the most obvious level. It's like, okay, this thing is designed to be a guitar amp. It says, amp one and a BluGuitar. So this
Mm-hmm.
is obvious. But you can do lots more with it. You can record harmonica with it. And as you said, you can use it as a stomp box overdrive, but you can use it as a power amp by itself. You can use it to replace your beloved vintage Marshalls. You can use it and tweak it so it makes a modern rock tone, or all that stuff. For me, it's um, you know I try to max out little things, and so I give you options, and you discover, of course, some of the options, and
Yeah,
there's still some options that are
that's
still waiting for you.
that's my question, is how much are you ahead of everyone else, and like, well, this is a cool little thing that they're going to discover at some point, or when they need it, it's there. And have you had any things where people are like, hey, by the way, I use the amp one for this, and you're like, oh my gosh, I hadn't even considered that could be a thing.
Yeah. Okay. Two answers of that. Of course, there's a lot of this. No, 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 no. I designed
Easter
it that
eggs.
way, and
Yeah.
yeah, you will discover in a few years. That's something. Of course, it's always on my list because I'm that kind of guy.
Right.
There's always another layer underneath it. But on the other hand, there's stuff like, hey guys, somebody from the Netherlands the other day, he discovered the zero gain mode, which is also possible on your amp,
Mm.
but which is a standard feature on the Mercury edition. And he kind of likes the gain from his pedals, and he likes the character from the channels. But the way he combines it is like, oh, I went in that direction, but I've never went that far. And so I
Mm.
got really inspired by what the guy was doing, But there's other tricks I can show you. So this is my
Please,
foot
yeah.
switch, but I can get it off. And if this one day would be dirty or broken, I can
Yeah.
clip it in. And it's just like, okay, I'm a magician. Look,
Yeah.
this is repaired, you know. And this is done by design, and this is the way I get it off again. So this is um, other people. This are the little details I haven't showed you, but I know how to do the things like that.
How
And
rewarding and inspiring is it to see people pushing the possibilities of what you're designing? Like when you see
well,
people doing stuff like that, that must just be the most incredible thing.
absolutely. But generally, if I hear somebody play my amp or my whatever I do, and I can feel that they are happy with it, this makes me so happy.
Hmm.
Because for me, I know what I've done and I'm happy myself. But the most rewarding feeling is if I see somebody that does something with what I've created that inspires me. It's like, hey man, you play whatever so beautiful, or oh, I haven't thought of that, And this is yeah, that's some very fulfilling and rewarding emotions for
Absolutely.
me. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
okay. So let me ask you this. I think, I mean, and you might get sick of this kind of question, but I think um, it's safe to say quite often we see the amp one and other amp ones, other products that basically don't look like guitar amps, get lumbered in with the Kemper profiler side of things. But your amp it's a real guitar amp. I know
Yeah,
I've seen a couple of people slightly complain that there's a little bit of buzz and hum on the vintage channel and stuff. And I'm thinking, yeah, because it's 100-watt guitar amp. It's the real
yeah,
deal. We
yeah,
know there's a little valve in the amp one.
yeah,
For those of us that aren't engineers, um,
yeah.
and just see a little thing glowing. Not to say it's not doing anything, but what would the amp one sound like if you took that out? So could you maybe just talk us through what that valve and what those parts
Yeah,
are doing to
yeah. I
contribute?
mean, absolutely. I mean, the first thing which is fundamental of the M1 is that it's all analog. So, usually a device of that size would be a digital processor. I'm not saying digital technology is bad, no, but I'm saying it's a different type of technology, which means your analog guitar will be converted into the digital domain, and then it will be processed on the digital domain, and then it will be reconverted into analog signal for your guitar speaker. And this amp1 is all analog from input to output, just like the old school tube amp. And what I've done in the channels and in the power amp is just to recreate what I learned in all my years being an amp designer, what in the real tube amps is happening in every little section, in every little stage in the signal path, from the first tube to the next, to the next, to the next, to the output transformer, blah, blah, blah. And the only job that I've done is knowing what's going on there and using a different lower voltage schematic technology to do the same effects, but without using the big tubes.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong about big tubes. I'm just trying to get the same magic with different parts. And many people have tried to do that. And, we know a lot of units that have a kind of tube built in or valve, and this valve state by Vox, for example. But then there's only one, and the rest is kind of standard transistor technology. My approach is a different one. It's like every stage in the real tube amp has to be recreated without any compromise. And I can use transistors to do it for certain stages, but some stages at the real tube that I use here is doing something good for that, which is, so here's my message. It's not that tube does everything and all the rest is standard. No, the whole design is on a different level.
It's
And
complementing each other.
absolutely. And it is not as simple as most people think. It's like, oh, it's got a tube, it's a tube amp. No, wait a minute. It is a hybrid amp using all kind of technologies. It's using a tube, it's using class D, which is not converting the signal. That's the difference to digital. Okay, now is the question, what do you understand by digital power amp? Is class D digital, or is it, where do you start? For me, it is not really digital, especially not my design, because my design is not the same standard chip that everybody uses, that you can buy OEM from some manufacturer, and there's your power, and you can write 200 watts or 500 watts and whatever. It's most efficient. No, this is designed using that technology, but it's using a design style that is different from the standard ones, that tries to recreate what's happening in the old tube amps with like two output AB kind of
Hmm.
things. And this is in a different technology. It's happening here with the class D, but it's not the standard class D. So that's, every, this is why it's so complex. It's also so complex to explain, but
Mm.
it all leads back to one thing is, I know what the real tube amps are doing, and I recreate every section of the tube amp using different components, but giving the same kind of processing to the analog sound as it's happening with the real tubes. And this is what I'm doing. And this little nano tube, which is in here, is doing its job in the power amp stage. Most people think, oh, it's a small tube, it must be in the preamp, because this is what they learned in the past. No, this tube works in the power amp. And this is responsible to get the feel of the power amp the way a tube power amp feels.
I love it. That is just so clever, and I'm gonna have to re-listen to this part of the podcast over and over to really understand. But thank you for explaining it so elegantly. It's fantastic. A couple more questions for you, Thomas, if that's okay.
Yeah.
You are out on the road. You've had a producer call you up, says, "Hey, we need to make a #1 hit by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning because the vocalist is coming in." You've got your laptop. You've got your amp one. What are you going to do to create a great guitar tone that you would feel confident sending over?
For me, it's very simple. I use my own blue box. Wait a minute. This one is having the tape on it, the sticky tape. No, this is the blue box. And the blue box is the emulation of 16 of the cabinets that I used over the last 3 decades being a session guy. So there is my Vox AC30 cabinet, there is my Fender collection, blah, 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 3, 4, 5 Fenders in there, and all my beloved Marshall cabs. And this is the easiest tool, because you simply dial in the speaker and there's one control that decides the mic position, and that's it. It's like what you do with UIR, and you have the one that you like the best combination, and that's it. And this is kind of my 16 favorites. So this is something I'm doing, but I'm honest, I always have a dry signal to be able to do other things, because in the production, you never know which direction the producer wants to go on the next level. Maybe they want to do a remix and they need a guitar in a totally different style. And then it's great to have a unprocessed or unfiltered or unmiked signal, so you're free to do other things.
To
So I would
reamp in
always,
other ways. Yeah.
So I would always leave options. And if you have something else at hand which sounds good to you, record it. I mean, today it's not having a 2-inch tape anymore that costs whatever, $300 a reel. And no, it's some hard drive space, and that's all. So go for it.
I love it. Last question then, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. And by the way, folks, I am a big subscriber, big fan of Thomas's YouTube channel, because there are hours upon hours and hours of things and tricks and secrets. I mean, like, you must be up to, you've done 15 episodes, right, of your tone, of your Academy of Tone?
Well, tomorrow I'll do number 19.
19, and they are the best part of 2 hours long, right?
Yeah. There's mostly 2 hours. Sometimes it's 2 hours 15. Sometimes it's 1 hour 45. But around 2 hours. Yeah.
There's literally days of insight
information.
And advice. It's incredible, and I often have them on around the house and just learning more about how to get to. I mean, I find one, I've watched it a couple of times now, this section where you just basically clone an AC30. You just like, here's an AC30, here it is now on the amp one, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and I've done the same thing with some classic tones like AC/DC, and then I had another episode of Van Halen, then I had another one, Yngwie, and a few classic ones, just to explain what I always call the cooking recipe, how to get sounds. And sometimes it's done with the combination of a certain guitar, a pedal, and the amp one, or the original amp. I have an amp switcher, and I have a huge collection of amplifiers as well. So it's always good to have reference points. So I really go and have my 1967 Black Flag Marshall, the one that I'm so proud of, because that's the one that sounded the best with the real, Muller tubes, and it's the one. And then I have my AB switcher, and then I dial in my amp one, and after a few minutes, it's like I'm even shocked myself. It's like, man, it's scary.
It is
you
scary.
know?
It really is. And just going on top of what you've done already, I did ask permission if I can ask you a couple of questions about the new product, the Amp X that you have
Sure.
coming out. Um, I guess I don't know if I'll get the answer, but do you have a date in mind? Is there a time we could be looking forward to that?
Well, let's put it that way. I put on the website coming in 2021. So
Okay.
this is definitely this is something I can keep. I try I try to play my first gig with it the New Year's Eve. So
Okay.
this is that's my personal goal, and therefore this is the big point. The unit must be working in all aspects, which is the MX is so complex. It is all analog, just like the AMP1, but it's digitally controlled. And the AMP-X is able to recreate any amp that I have seen. And by the way, I just moved the camera. Come on, I do it now because this is like part of the thing.
Yeah,
Of, hello, wait a minute. Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Um, okay, can you see? Because I can't see you
Now I
anymore.
can see
Ah,
you. Yeah.
okay, see, this is my little pedal collection that
Yes.
I had the other day for testing the MX pedal section. And what I wanted to make sure that the MX is able to recreate the pedals that I have here. And there's like a boost section and there's a drive section. And there's an amp section, but the amp section is so complex it takes me like one day to recreate one amp, and then it takes another day, so I can't really do that. I have done this and I'm confident that it can do any amp, but when I finished the drive section I wasn't so sure, and then I brought in my some of these pedals which are a range
Hmm.
master treble booster, original one from 1960, blah blah blah, which
Wow.
is a very unique, or a diamond compressor. And I the drive section is not, and the boost section is not so complex, so I could spend 10 minutes and see if I can get that compressor going. And I thought after 10 minutes, okay, I can do it, no problem. Next, let me see if I can clone that kind of thing, and I can do it. And then I done the next one, and it's like, okay, after 30 minutes, I gave up. I had all like, okay, it's good. Let's finish the design. And
Wow.
the big point on the MX is, and this is why it will take its time. Um, it's everything. I'm working on the project for the last 2.5 or even 3 years. So this is how, and of course the thoughts go back even further. But the complexity of the X is you have like a so flexible analog design schematic that has so many parameters that if you tweak one knob inside my schematics, it doesn't do anything. It just
Mm.
does a little thing. So it's like 150 that I have to change, which kind of turns my schematic into a different one of that amp. And then I can judge it. So, and now I'm at the level where my software guy, which I can't do, is writing the software how to control all these parameters. The analog side, the signal part, that's clear. I know it works and it will do the job. But now it's the part of how to get it controlled, and we have to use also some neural functions, neural combinations. This is
Hmm.
why we call it neural analog technology, and the kind of artificial intelligence, no, so some kind of intelligent learning. So
Right.
for the customer, it's just, oh, this is your amp, whatever, your beloved Marshall, whatever, or my big tone amplifier at the back. And if I turn the treble knob on that amplifier, if I do the same model in my amp X, the treble should be just like that and not just
Wow.
like any. So I want
That's
to go there.
amazing.
Yeah, and this is my goal. And maybe you know how passionate I am, and and it's, you know, it needs to be done properly, and it's finished when it's finished. So there will be something. Yeah, the good thing is we have parts that already work,
Great.
you know, done, and but some parts take its time, and I don't want to rush.
No.
This will be my contribution to amp designs, because um, I had this dream in my head for so many years,
Mm.
and so this will be done right, and then it's finished, and when it's finished, you'll see it.
Oh, do you think you're going to take a break after this next amp? Are you going to take a break, or is it a
No,
little bit like an album? You're like, okay, great, that's out. Now I'm going to start writing the next one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but you know, the thing about the MX will be, when the hardware is finished, then there will be like a software version 1, which offers you already a big uh, variety of amps and effects. But the beauty is I can take the time and get even the weirdest fuzz boxes in there, and I can get different compressors, and so it's an ongoing project, which means over the next years I can have my whole collection just in this tiny box. And so that's the job for myself, on the one hand. And of course, if I'm getting bored, I have more things in my head, and there's also music waiting, and you know, blah blah blah.
Wow. Well, look, Thomas, I really can't thank you enough for spending so much time with me today. I'm a big fan of what you do.
Pleasure.
I use your product on a daily basis. I love your guitar playing, and I love how passionate you are, and that makes other people passionate. So thank you for doing everything you do and spending 2 or 3 hour long video live episodes every week and talking us through more ideas, because I know people get so much out of it. But for those who are looking to record at home, I have to say, this is, like I said at the beginning, I use it, I record my guitars, I'm always so happy with this. Sometimes I just use the record out. Sometimes I don't
Yeah,
even use an IR. I just go straight into the interface and then straight into and I record a lot of demos that way, because I need to just
yeah.
throw and go. So this is a wonderful, very cost effective in the long run situation for anyone who is a part of this channel because they can't afford to record, which is in many ways what the whole thing's about. But Thomas,
Yeah.
just thanks so much. I really, really appreciate it.
Big pleasure. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
We'll see each other again very soon.
I'm sure. Bye.